Really?
What's good, everybody?
Hi,
What's up? What's up? Welcome to my channel. I am Emmanuel, and this is my beautiful, lovely wife.
I thought you were... Wow, I'm Kiana.
There you go.
Hi, guys. Hi, world. Hi, universe.
Well, welcome back to my channel, a new video, and this time my wife is on it because a few months ago she was on one of our videos, and you can go back to it, and it's the one that we mentioned about paying off our student loan. Yes, our student loan debt. Yes, my personal student loan, the one that's under my name.
Right.
But we have another one coming up, but that would be for next year when we pay that off.
Right.
But I'm happy that my wife is joining this this video.
Yay!
So yes, so we're gonna get into it. So this video is gonna be more on money management tips, and this is also more for our personal journey as well. For you guys, you may have something else that may be personal for you, but who knows, maybe what we share, you can also have it for your own personal lives as well. So we're gonna go with the first one. So our title for this one, or what we're gonna be speaking about, is 8 reasons why we want to be debt-free. All right, so the first one is, listen, emergencies. All right, so let me speak more a little bit about that. All right, because for example, I live in Miami. We both live in Miami, but my home is back in New Jersey. You know, all my family lives out there. My brothers, my nieces,
Miami is better.
Nah, New Jersey. Well, Miami is better overall, I guess. Anyways, and my mom is out there and whatnot. And you know, I only go over there once a year for the most part. But let's just say there's an emergency that happens. God forbid, you know, health-related issue with my mom or anybody, and I just have to fly out there. Now, I want to be prepared to have that money in advance. But this is the thing. I want to have that money in advance without having any debt.
Right.
You know, because if I have debt, it's going to be harder. Or even if I have debt, at least I have that money saved just for that. You know, I don't want to be able to use a credit card. I don't want to be able to borrow anybody else's money, because then we have to pay them back. You know, unless they are, you know, generous and decide to give it to us, that's fine. But I want to be prepared for that moment whenever that happens. You know, when I have to just fly out and the ticket is like $200, you know, a round trip. And yes, maybe $200 may not seem a lot, but for some people it is, especially if you are in debt. $200 is $200.
And living paycheck to paycheck.
Exactly. Every dollar counts, you know, and that's one example of an emergency. You know, just other emergencies in general in life, we want to be able to have money away in case of an emergency. Listen, there's no reason for us to borrow any money. There's no reason for us to use credit cards, because let's just say we don't have an emergency fund and we use a credit card. And let's say, God forbid, something happens and we have to use that credit card again, and we have to pay all that back, and it's going to take a long time. Plus, we're going to be paying interest. Like, we don't want that. That is why it's very crucial for us, and for you guys too, to have at least $1,000 of an emergency fund. All right. Now, an emergency is not buying a new sofa. That's not an emergency. An emergency is maybe your tires broke, you know, got flat, and you have to get new ones.
That happened to me the other day. Well, my tire didn't get flat, but there was a little pressure in my tire, so it almost got flat.
That actually happened to me like last month. I was doing Uber, and boom, my tire went flat, and man, I had to take it home. And then the next day, the tow truck had to take it to the dealership, and I had to change the money. I had to change the tires. But you know what? I didn't have to use an emergency fund because I already had a lot of extra money in my checking account to use it. Because either way, if I was gonna take out those $200 from the emergency fund, I was gonna put it right back with the money that I have in my checking. So it is important for us that whenever emergencies happen, we gotta be prepared. We don't wanna wait for something to happen and then boom, try to find out where to get money.
And then you delay yourself even more by not having that emergency fund. And sometimes, you know, some people can't always put away 1,000, even if it's 500, you know, putting away something so that if something were to occur or come up in the future, you know that you can put your hand in it and be able to pay for whatever that emergency is.
Yeah, that's true. So that is number one. Number two, we talk about savings, which is what we're talking about already. All right. Now, not only that we want to have which we already do have $1,000 of an emergency fund. But whenever we're debt free, we are going to continue building our emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of our monthly expenses.
That's baby step number?
That's baby step number 2. Remember, we got. Oh wait, I'm sorry. No, you're right. Wow,
we're sorry. Both confused.
I know we're both confused.
We don't know what we're saying. No, listen to us though. We're credible.
That's baby step number 3. All right. So baby step number 1 is save $1,000 for emergency fund. Baby step number 2 is pay all your debt from listen from smallest to largest. And baby step number 3, which is what we're talking about, is savings 3 to 6 months of a fully funded emergency fund. And listen, when you're debt free, you can easily save thousands of dollars just in 6 months, depending on your income.
That money is not going to bills.
Exactly. Well, it's going to bills, but it's not going to specific
multiple bills
that we owe. Right. You know, debt. You know, so that's very important to have those savings. And let me tell you something. I think close to 50% of Americans in this country do not even have at least $500 of an emergency fund. They rely on credit card. They rely on, people borrowing money just from anywhere.
Taking loans.
Just taking loans. And, and we don't want that. We don't want to be a slave to that anymore. But as of right now, we are a slave because we're paying off debt, but we're doing great, and you can watch all the other videos. So that is, when it comes to savings, very crucial, And now, and you know what? Some people ask me, why don't you save now while you're paying off debt? And, we can do that. But the problem is that if we try to save now while paying off debt, we're going to take a longer time to pay off debt. Now, before we move where we're at right now, we kind of paused the debt snowball the way we were paying at a faster rate, so we can save some money to have money up front for our rent for the place that we live in now. That's different. But generally speaking, if we're not going to make a huge purchase or we're not moving anywhere or whatever, there's no reason for us to save. We are just going to, boom, pay off as much debt as we can, as fast as we can. So I'm going to pass it on to my wife for number 3.
So number 3 of the reasons why we want to be debt free is so that we could focus on our education and our hobbies. So as you know, right now, the majority of our income is going towards our debt. And so Emmanuel and I, we both have gifts that God has blessed us with, myself being a creative, Emmanuel wanting to go into ministry and eventually become a pastor. And so both of those things, and also I aspire to be a therapist, that's another thing. Yep. But both of those things require us to attend school. So one thing that a lot of people might not know is that I made the very hard decision to put off attending graduate school.
That was hard.
until we finish pay our debt. That was a really hard decision for me because I really, really wanted to get my graduate degree in counseling. And I know there's a lot of people that, they go on to get their degree and they take out loans and, whatever. And, that's your personal choice. But we felt for our personal situation that it would just be better off if we just put off this goal. And also for him too, he wants to attend seminary. So he also put that off so that we could focus all of our efforts and our energy on paying off debt so that eventually we will be able to attend school and get the degrees and be able to practice or enter into ministry, full-time ministry. And so, these things are on the horizon and God willing, we'll be able to do these things. But right now, we just want to be good stewards of our finances and we want to build wealth, and we start by paying off the debts that we have now so that we can move on to our endeavors and accomplish our dreams, really. Yep. For me personally, another thing that is really important to me is my writing. I've been writing, some of you know that are really close to me know that I've been writing since I was a child. I have mountains of stories and poems and things that I have written. And I'm currently working on something right now, hint, hint, that I hope to publish someday. And again, I work full time. I have bills to pay, so a lot of my mental focus is on those things. And so I'm not always able to focus on my writing and being able to come up with new ideas for my writing. And that's okay. You know, I don't want to beat myself up for it. I know that by being responsible now and paying off debt and making sure that I'm managing my money well, that I am preparing myself to have what I need to contribute to the goal of becoming, even, you know, if God will, again, God willing, becoming a full-time writer, maybe not a therapist, maybe an author, who knows? The point is,
support her when she comes out with her future, you know, project.
The point is that we want to, in order for us to be able to focus all of our efforts and our attention on our education and our hobbies, we feel that it is really important to get the debt out of the way now, so it's not something that we have to worry about in the future when these things become a possibility for us.
Awesome, yeah, I agree with you. And number 4 that she's gonna touch on, it is,
let me look, sorry guys, it is being able to travel. So Emmanuel and I
know we all love to travel, right?
Yeah, and right now we don't have any children. Part of that is, well, most of that, all of that is by choice, because we just feel that we want to, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, we're going to expand on that. We want to raise our children in financial freedom, so we have kind of set that to the side as well. We do hope to have children, for those of you that keep asking and are waiting. But another thing that we want to do is to be able to travel. So we want to go to Hawaii and Greece and Italy and Israel and all these other places. But again, that requires money, lots of money. You know, booking a place to stay, booking the trip, eating, and all of these different things that goes into traveling. Again, you can do all of these things and have plenty of debt, but we want to be able to do these things without having to worry about all the mountains of debt that we have, and worry about these bills, and worry about, you know, coming short on rent or all the other disasters that can happen because we decided that we wanted to fulfill our gratification in, you know, traveling and, you know, doing all of those things. So we also put that off for now. But once we do finish paying off our debt, we do hope to celebrate by taking a big trip somewhere. We don't know where that is yet, but that is in the plan as well.
Yes. And number 5 is becoming homeowners. I mean, most people in America, they want to own a home, right? That's a big deal. But we have decided is that before we even buy a home, if that's, you know, within God's plan in the future, we want to be debt free before that happens. Obviously, with still having to be have a loan for the house, unless we were like wealthy people, which we're not financially speaking. But we do want to own a home, but we want to be debt free. We don't want to have a home where we don't no longer have to rely on a landlord if a roof breaks off or the boiler room, you know, pops or whatever, and they fix it for us and we don't pay. We don't have to deal with that right now. But when we're at a home that we own, we're going to have to worry about that stuff. We're going to have an emergency fund in case a roof needs to be fixed. But I don't want to have to deal with that. We don't want to have to deal with that if we have other debt, student loan debt, you know, car debt, you know, whatever, any other debt, because that's going to be even more stressful. We don't want that. You know, so yes, we do want to become homeowners, but we want to be debt free before that even happens. And I encourage you guys, if you ever want to become a homeowner, I suggest that you become debt free first and then buy a home. You know, it's just much better because listen, renting is not bad for the moment. Until you are stabilized, then you want to go buy a house and have a mortgage. All right. And then number 6 is helping others that are in need. All right, being generous. All right, now let me clarify something. Even though we are in debt, that doesn't mean that we can't help. Even though that we're in debt, that doesn't mean that we can't give financially something to somebody else. All right,
and we have
done it just recently. You know, gave money away to help somebody else with something. You know, and we didn't have to do it. But we did it because we care, because we love, and we know that we would help that person out with whatever it is that person needed for it. you know, and that's just being generous. Now, obviously, we don't give the way we want to give because then we're never going to pay off debt, right? But when we definitely are debt free, we want to be as generous as we can and give a lot more than we can. Of course, praying about it and asking God, asking God for discernment and wisdom of who to give it to and whatnot. And we have a rule, we have a rule is that we don't lend anybody money, all right? There's not anything morally wrong about it. But we just prefer not to lend anybody money because a lot of relationships turn sour when you lend people money. All right? I hear so many stories. Listen, you try to call that person back, they're going to ignore your call, they're going to make excuses, and then they disappear. So we rather just bless people, and you don't have to worry about it. Here, take this $200.
Save the money.
This is for you. Like, do whatever you got to do with it, Be blessed. You don't owe us anything, So that is a big part. Why we want to be debt free, when we'll be able to give money, and it ultimately is also for the kingdom of God, for the people in the church that we are a part of, or just anyone in our family that needs it and whatnot. So that is a big part of why we want to be debt free as well. And then for number 7,
the next one is another reason why we want to be debt free is to provide a better future for our children. Mm-hmm. So I can use myself as an example. I had my parents are Haitian immigrants, and I grew up.
We share the same island.
Yes,
DR and Haiti.
Neighboring islands. So, my parents, growing up, I watched my parents work very, very hard. Both of them had full-time jobs. Both of them were in charge of their respective departments. And I remember watching my mom, come home at 3 a.m. and, my dad working 12 hours a day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And, they worked hard and they did that so that my brother Philip and I could have what we needed. And we lived very comfortably. Philip and I, we had everything that we needed to be stable, to be secure. There were a few moments growing up where I realized that we weren't in the best financial situation. And that goes to show that, when you do have debt or you do have, multiple bills, multiple loans that you have taken out and have accrued, it takes a toll on you and it's like a burden. So you feel like you have to work extra hard, not just to pay those off, but to also provide for your children. Mm-hmm. That's the first priority. Make sure that your family is taken care of. And we want to make sure that our children are safe and secure without having to worry about all of the debt, the mountain of debt. I keep referring to debt as a mountain because that's literally what it is. It's just the burden of debt that's, creeped up in the back. Like we don't want to be thinking about that and thinking about putting food on the table and making sure there's a roof over our head and clothes on our back. We want to be able to give freely without having, to worry about any of that stuff. And then our children having to absorb that stress because I surely, again, watching my parents, work so hard and dealing with nasty people and the jobs that they had and then thinking about bills and thinking about loans or anything that they had to pay. Like me being a curious child and being a very observant child, I saw all of those things and I saw the toll that it took on them sometimes. And I don't want our children to absorb any of that and replicate that and feel like they have to carry that burden as well. So that moves us to our next point.
And our last point.
Number
8.
Another reason why we want to be debt free is so that we could be financially free, plain and simple. And the word free here is the key word because when you owe someone something, you're basically, the Bible says, I don't remember the specific verse. I know it's in Proverbs. The borrower is slave to the lender. So, when you owe somebody something, a debt, and it's, you have to work to pay it off. And that is a form of slavery. And you're not free from that until you have paid it in full. And so, you know, financial freedom is the goal. And we're thinking about 10, 15, 20 years down the line. Like, what is our family going to look like? What are our children going to experience? What is our bank account going to look like? Not because we want to have $1 million or anything. That's not the motivation. The motivation is to be able to care for our family, care for our children, and teach them to do the same. You know, both of us, again, I want to reiterate the point that we both came from homes where our parents worked very hard, and mind you, they were immigrants, so they did not, you know, they didn't my father, he went to college, he finished his degree, but he didn't advance, you know, farther than that. My mom, same thing. She went to school, she didn't get a college degree, you know, and Emmanuel, I believe your parents, they didn't go to college at all, right?
Not even high school.
So, you know, again, there's only so many jobs that are available to people who do not have college degrees, unfortunately, and that those jobs usually require a lot of work. And I personally want to be able to say, you know what, I want to stay home and I want to care for my children full time. If I was to have a child right now, if we were to have a child right now, I couldn't do that. I couldn't just say, okay, you know what, Emmanuel, you got this. We're going to rely on one income. I'm going to stay home and be with my child, because we just could not afford it. We have debt that we have to pay, and that debt has to get paid. So I have to work. And so, you know, and plenty of people do it. There's plenty of people who have 2-3 jobs and they have children and they have debt, but their situations are really, really tough. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And I sincerely, you know, wish the best for people who are in that situation. But this is why, you know, we do follow Dave Ramsey's teachings, and we do see that it works, and it works in any situation. And before we start a family, and before we make any, you know, rash decisions about taking on another credit card or taking on a student loan, we want to be able to assess our situation and say, what is it that we truly want for our family? Do we want to just be able to get whatever we want when we want it and take out a credit card and go buy this and that? Or do we want to wait and pursue financial freedom by paying the debt that we have now, so that later on we don't have to deal with that and we can buy, you know, those shoes, or we can, you know, get that house or buy those clothes, because, you know, we're not worrying about the student loan payment that's coming up next week. So that's the goal. The goal is financial freedom. We want to be able to say we are debt free, we're moving forward, we're building wealth, we're creating a financially free future for our children, and we're going to teach them to do the same. So with that being said, that is our 8 reasons why we want to be debt free. I mean, we have a lot more, but we don't want to keep you up a longer video. And again, stay tuned for more videos. Thank you guys for watching. You know, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like my channel, and make sure you share it as well. Stay tuned for the next videos coming up, more interviews coming up. All right, peace. Bye.